welcome to another edition of the Wolves Athletic Show. I'm your host, Brian Quartz. We're pleased to be joined in our first segment today by head men's basketball coach Wes Pifer. And Wes, how's everything going today?
Oh, it's been an outstanding day, man. Thanks for having me on.
And Deborah would like to point out, too, like we said, we're still practicing safe social distancing. We're actually here in the set, making sure that we're doing everything we're supposed to be doing and not Zooming. So it's good to see you, Wes, actually in the studio today.
Likewise.
So now that, let's look back before we go into what we did so far since you've been back on campus. Let's look back to last year, 19-win season in your first year. The team, beat number 6 Dixie State, which was a big win at home. You were ranked 24th nationally at one point. You ended up finishing tied for second in the GNAC. Almost got some regional spots there for voting. How would you kind of assess how the first year went for you here at WU?
I thought we had a really strong first year. We hit on a lot of goals that we set in the preseason. We're more of a process-driven team, with me as the leader. We hit a lot of those notes, but, we think as a program, we still have some benchmarks that we want to hit. But the first season was really good. We had some guys that got some individual accolades. We got recognized as a team of the week by the GNAC. We had some regional stuff that we were ranked in. Overall, I felt like it was a very strong first year, but, we set the bar pretty high here. The tradition is very, very good. So we know that, we're kind of going to put that one in our back seat, and we're going to gear up for year two. We think it's going to be a big year.
And how nice was it, Coach, too, to come out to the start you did? Whenever you get into a new program and you're trying to establish a new system, how nice was it to get out to that good start we had, and then including that, win over Dixie State, who's now, in Division I.
Yeah, I felt like we had a really strong start. Anytime you're coming into a new program, like I'm new as the head coach, the guys, from last year were new to my system, my terminology, offensively and defensively. For us to have some early on success that we could kind of lean on I thought was very big, and it kind of catapulted us once we reached into GNAC play. That Dixie State team was very, very good. And that's one of the games early on that the guys had kind of pinpointed. We had Regis early, who we thought was an NCAA tournament team, and then Dixie was right there as well. So they were kind of hyped up. I thought through that week for practice, you could hear us throughout the building, which is always good for me as the coach. And we came out dialed in for that one. So I think that, that win kind of proved to the guys that they could play with anybody. We had some early successes, and I think that just kind of gave us some strides going into the league play.
I think what really helped was, getting your coaching staff together. Of course, you brought Coach Fisher with you, from Northern Arizona. But then when you came in, you inherited, Coach Jamestown, and you had in Coach Morgan. How much did it help having those two? Because, they already knew the system of, how to run with WU and kind of knew the ins and outs. That way you had those two to kind of lean on, when you first came into the system.
Yeah, it was big. I thought Coach Jamestown in his year for me did a great job. Him and Manny kind of knew the landscape of Western. They knew the landscape, so they could, we call them landmines. They could kind of keep me away from like the landmines of like when you're trying to go about your daily things of, gym scheduling, practice scheduling, things of that nature. And also point me in the direction of the right people that I need to be talking to about certain issues. I thought both of those guys did an outstanding job. Coach Jamestown's moved on to be an assistant at Cal State Bernardino, which is a great move for him and his family. We hope to see those guys, when the NCAA regionals kick off. I think they're going to be a good team. And then Coach Morgan went on to be an assistant coach at College of Idaho, where he played at. They finished last year 30-3, and at one point I think they won like 25 games in a row. So both guys did a great job, in their year with me, kind of helping me adjust to Western. And because of it, when you have success, people are going to be able to move on. So those guys did a great job, and I'm thankful for Brian to still be here with me. He knows me probably professionally as good as anyone. He did a tremendous job last year as well.
And two, I think when you look at the team you inherited, how nice was it to have, Dallin Brashear, obviously then he's on to playing professionally now, but how nice was it to bring in, a guy like his level, Jalen Richardson had been for a few years. You also had some guys that had, been in this program with like Cam Cranston, even Eton Collins wasn't able to play, but he'd been around. So how nice was it to kind of have those guys that you inherited to kind of bring along the new guys in with your system?
Yeah, it was huge. When you're talking about the elephant in the room, it's going to be how can we get to that production level that Dalvin gave us, on a daily basis last year. Him and Jalen, like we had some good. I was left with some tools, kind of in my toolbox, and they kind of fit what I wanted to do, how I wanted to play offensively. Dalvin and Jalen obviously flourished in the system, and then you got guys like Cameron who, he didn't play a whole lot as a freshman, so he kind of had a breakout year. We got to A couple of guys I think are going to be in that same boat. But, we were not a bear, we weren't a bear cabin when I took over. Those guys had tremendous seasons.
And how nice is it too for the program? With like I mentioned before with Dalvin, going on to play in the DBL. Caleb, who was just graduated before you got here, he's over that as well. Tanner Omled's over there playing as well in another one of the Europe leagues. How nice is it to see players from the program that go on, and you can also utilize that as a recruiting tool, showing hey you can come here, and then obviously there's a chance to still continue your professional career.
Yeah, absolutely. It's huge in recruiting. When you're talking about trying to get the highest level talent that you can obtain, that's going to be something that they ask. What are my going to be my prospects for the next level? And now we have some tangible proof that if guys come here and we continue to win the tradition that we have, that you're going to have opportunities for yourself. I think Dalvin is going to be successful. Me and him talk probably 2-3 times a week on that WhatsApp. Me and him getting extremely close, and it's always good. Guys like Tanner and Caleb, they always come back, and they come back and play with the guys, and guys can kind of see them in their successes, and it's like a blueprint for them and where they need to go.
For you, when you first looked at the Western Oregon position, because you were down at Northern Arizona Division I program as the associate head coach, what kind of drew you to being interested in Western Oregon? And once you got here on campus, when did you kind of feel you felt comfortable with the position and started moving forward as the head coach?
Yeah, the thing that kind of drew me to the position was I'd always seen from afar the tradition. You're talking about Elite Eights and Final Fours and Sweet 16s, and that's kind of speaking my love language. I've won at every stop of my career as a player and a coach. So I couldn't, I don't think I could flourish in a place that had low expectations for men's basketball. So that kind of drew me to the job. And then when I got here, I just kind of felt at home. It reminds me a lot of where I played at, Division III Penn State Altoona, which had about almost the same as us, about 5,000 students, but really tight-knit community. Everybody knew each other, spoke, smiled, things of that nature, and that kind of fits right up my alley. So when you're doing this job, you really never feel like you're caught up. But as far as, getting acclimated to the university and the people here and the climate, it was almost seamless.
And now switching gears a little bit here, Coach, how nice is it to be back on campus? We've been here for the last few weeks now with our student athletes. You've kind of been working your way into practices now. Deborah was able to go out and get some footage here in this past week, but how much of an adjustment has it been, with wearing the mask now and the social distancing? I know talking to our student athletes, they're just excited to be back out there.
Oh, as their coach, I'm just as excited. This is what I do, basketball in my family. So I really did miss our guys and them being here, just the energy that comes with having our students here on campus and getting a chance to interact with your guys every day. For us, relationships are everything. So the guys come into the office and check in before 1 o'clock every day. And it just gives me a chance to really get a chance to just know these guys. And as far as just the difference, you're practicing with your mask on, you're coaching with your mask on. And it's a little bit different, but it's a really good different to have them back, and we're starting to get our basic foot underneath us as far as like what we do things, why we do things. So it's good to have all those things back in place.
I told our players too, once we get used to this, I told them, they're trying to adjust to, running with the mask on. I said, just think about how nice it's going to be when you don't have to wear the mask anymore, and you've been fighting through that for, the past several months. It'll seem like it's easy doing those sprints up and down the floor, but I think it's just good to have them back, like we said, in the energy. But especially for you, you had a lot of recruits that came in, really high caliber amount of athletes you brought in, for this coming season. So how nice has it been to be able to see them, and actually get kind of a read on them in some practices here?
Yeah, it's been really good. Recruiting in Covert was different, to say the least. I'll take an example of our two freshmen, Nate Johnson out of Seattle and then Zach Moore out of San Diego. When I'd never seen those guys like in person. We recruited them over Zoom. And Zach's supposed to be a 6'5" guard. Nate's supposed to be a 6'7" kind of guard forward. But sometimes, when those guys get to campus, those guys are 6'3" and 6'5". So when I had a chance to actually meet them, they were both 6'5" and 6'7". But, just getting a chance to get a chance to know these guys, getting them to know me as a coach, kind of baptizing them into our way of doing things, has been really, really good. They all come from successful programs, but, when you're talking about 6 new guys, you're talking about they all came from 6 different cultures, different terminology, so you're trying to get everybody on one page. So that first 3 weeks, that's really what we're trying to do. The older guys have been helping the new guys out, and the new guys have been picking up the stuff really fast.
Well, I guess you'll be checking out my recruiting profile then. Actually, I'm 7 foot, and we were through Zoom, so I still have a year of eligibility, coach, if you need me to come off the bench for you for a few spots. But, I know one thing I always like that you have is that, your win the day motto and mentality that, you brought with you, and I think that that's really resonated with this team. I talk to our players all the time about, it's not just, going from A to Z like we talk. You got a lot of steps along the way, trying to get through winning practice, winning the weight room, winning in class before you get to, the actual game. Is that something that you kind of brought as a player and you brought through your coaching ranks to, eventually bring here?
Yeah, it was one of those things that I just kind of took about amongst my daily life. And I said if I was ever fortunate enough to be somebody's leader and caretaker of a program that I bring along with me. I just believe in going 1-0, whatever it is in front of you. I think you did a great job kind of describing it. If the next right thing is to go to class, be 10 minutes early. If you're supposed to go to weights, go over there and win weights. And I think if you stack up enough of those wins along the way, those games in February and March on the road, they kind of take care of themselves when you've been winning every single day. So that's all we don't get too far ahead of ourselves. We don't be looking behind us. We try to stay whatever in front of us. We try to do it at the most elite level we can.
I know one thing too I've really enjoyed, being around you because we both came in at the same time last year together is your energy, your knowledge of the game. I know that's something that our players always talk about too. They really like that, you bring that energy every day to practice and they know that, hey, we can't let coach outduel us in the energy category because if coach is more hyped than us, that ain't a good thing. So, how nice is that to kind of bring that every day in practice and see kind of your players follow suit with that as well?
It's great. It's just one of our core values. There are people that in all walks of life, we talk about life a ton. We're very fortunate to do what we do. I get a chance to coach basketball. They get a chance to play basketball every day. And I think there should be a certain joy and energy that comes with that. So I do. I come to practice in the South and spending time with my family. Those are the best hour and a half, 2 hours of my day. So I think that we should reflect it in our talk, our energy level. And then we try to balance it. I tell the guys to bring that energy over to the building. I think energy is contagious, and we talk about it a ton. And we always want to be giving off positive energy. So it's good to hear those guys talk about energy and knowing the importance of it as well.
Too, I think, like we mentioned, obviously going through practice now, nice to have that. But, in some ways, and a lot of our coaches were mentioning too with, different recruits, how different it was to recruit and the changes with that. How nice is it kind of in some ways, you've had a little bit more time now to evaluate them, get them on campus instead of jumping right into games. Because, right now we'd be getting ready for already be tipping. You'd already have a couple exhibition games going. We'd be getting ready for the season. So in some aspects, how nice is it to kind of have, a little bit of a slower transition for you to kind of bring everybody back. And because, this has been an adjustment, not just for all of us as staff, but, the returners and the new players to try to just get used to everything now in a COVID world.
Yeah, for me, I applaud myself on being a teacher of the game. So what it's allowed me to do the extra time is to really break down the smallest nuances of everything we do, especially with the new guys, trying to tell them the whys. I call them the why generation. The guys really want to know why we do what we do. So it's really giving me a chance and our staff to really break down the whys and what we do and kind of go slower than we were even able to do last year. Some of the drill work and things of that nature that we've been doing, really breaking it down like really, really small and tiny, and basically just giving them bite-sized capsules of it right now.
And you mentioned too, how much of an adjustment was it with recruiting? You said you're doing a lot more Zooms. You're not able to really go see them play. And they're not really able to come to campus there for a while, when campus was kind of shut down. So kind of how was that just, relying on just talking to them and, hoping for the best at some points?
Yeah, you have to be really thorough in your evaluation. When we go through the recruiting process, we're talking to high school coaches, AAU coaches. When we're able to be out, I'm talking to the person in the cafeteria, assistant principals, trying to gather as much information as you can about them, knowing exactly who you're going to bring to campus. So we're that same diligent about who we're going to recruit, but it was just different as far as like the Zooms, because Brian is a technology guy. I am not a technology person. So Brian was setting up our Zooms, and he would have to text me or call me like, hey, Wes, we're supposed to be on in 5 minutes. And I would I'd have to go run and just put a shirt on. Like I'd have on like a basketball shirt or a hoodie. I'm like, oh, we got to Zoom in 5 minutes. I got to go, put on a shirt to look presentable and to talk. It was different, but it was a good different. And now to have the fruits of our labor kind of show with these guys being here, we were still able to sign a high-end class. So, I got to give Brian his credit due. In a job well done, but it was different, but it was a good different as well.
Coach, you should have told me we could have set up, with the Zoom backgrounds, we could have had you set up in one of those suits, from the game, and you could just have that still image back there and be like, hey, Coach is always ready to coach or recruit, no matter what time of the day. And you could have been up there at midnight and just popped up that still shot of you and been ready to recruit.
It was a good one. It was a good one to use. I mean, the one that probably sticks out is when we did one with Zach and his family. I think about like 9 o'clock in the morning, and it was probably about 8:45, and I'm sitting there, eating breakfast, just kind of hanging out, doing my thing, and then at 9 o'clock pops up, and Brian sends me a text. I don't even have my phone, so I had to scramble up, put a shirt on, like brush my hair and do all that stuff, and I come on, and Brian had been talking to him for 10 minutes, and I was like, oh man, let's hope I didn't mess this one up too bad.
Yeah, it's so different how it hasn't changed from, being March where we were, your season was almost wrapping up, where everything's normal. And then all of a sudden we're going to everybody stay home, get on your computers, and let's, use that way to communicate, which definitely was a change for everybody. But, when you think about, I think, expressing to people that haven't maybe watched some of your games live, I mean, they're definitely missing out because, you watch your high-octane, fast-paced play. And what I really like about when you watch your team play is that anybody can bring the ball up. I've seen even Big John grab it. He brings it up. He can shoot threes. It doesn't matter who, anybody, 1 to 5, in that lineup can grab the ball, bring it up, and be a threat in transitions. That's something that's always kind of been your kind of, I guess, multiple game plays you want to have as a coach.
Yeah, for me, style of play, I wanted it to be exciting. I always wanted to have something that we could put as a product because it gives you a couple of things. Recruits really want to know how you're going to play. And we try to back up by saying we're going to play fast by actually showing them film on how we're going to play fast. And then if you look at the NBA, where I get a lot of kind of our new age thinking, what we do offensively, all 5 positions can dribble, pass, and shoot, something that we look for in all our everybody that we talk about that we're going to recruit. And a lot of the times we don't label these guys 1 through 5. I call them all playmakers. And we want to have 5 playmakers on the floor at all times. So me as a coach, we've already talked about energy. I think confidence is a huge one too. I want our guys to feel like world beaters when they're in between the lines. Like there's not a shot or a play that they can't make, knowing that their head coach believes in them. So we try to foster that as much as we can too. If a guy misses a shot, we try to clap him up just like he does when he makes it. I think it's fun style that you would want to play in. And what it does when we have a chance to get on these Zooms, Fish does these great like film edits that he can put together at the drop of a dime, about 2 minutes of us, how we play. And the families, they're always taken back and they love it. But it's a fun style to play and it's a fun style to coaching.
All right, Coach. Well, it was really great catching up with you today and getting to follow things up now that we're back on campus and practicing again. I know, with my office right there, it's sure nice hearing the energy you guys bring to the gym every day, and it definitely makes it feel like we're getting back to normal. So really appreciate you joining us and look forward to catching up with you again here soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.
And now we go to our halftime segment here on the show, a chance to honor and do a tribute video of everybody's lovable mascot, Wolfie. When you don't see him cheering at all of our events, he's usually around campus bringing cheer to everybody on campus as well. So we appreciate seeing Wolfie, and we look forward to seeing him back here on campus here soon when we get events going in the spring. And for our next segment here on the show, we're joined by head cross country and track and field coach Octavius Gillespie-Bennett. And Coach G, appreciate you coming on. How's everything going?
Going great, Brian. Thank you for having me on. I'm excited to get going, have this conversation. So any questions you have, I'm happy to answer.
I got to thinking what they should do with the student athletes. You should make them say your name 3 times fast. And that dictates, how they determines their practice for the day. If they can nail it, less practice. If they can't, they gotta run more.
So I should make them say Octavius Gillespie 3 times
Or
fast.
Gillespie-Bennett. Yeah, see how many
Octavius
times
Gillespie-Bennett,
you
the
fast.
whole
Yeah, you got to do
thing,
your
huh?
whole name, See,
Yeah,
just keep them going.
Good luck with that one.
Yeah, I'm sure. That's why Coach Teague becomes the AKA name, all the time. But, we were talking before, how nice is it to be, back with our student athletes. We've had a couple weeks under our belt. Like you and I were talking, it seemed like they're kind of getting in the groove, getting used to what is the new normal. What have kind of been the things you've been seeing now and, with having to adjust to the masks and the social distancing? I know Deborah had some footage on that this past week as well.
Yeah, this new normal is, it's what we've all been dealing with for the last, 9 months here. It's, it's not fun by any stretch of the imagination, but like I keep on reminding the athletes, is this is what we have to do in order to participate, in order to be responsible, and so we can actually participate in what we love to do here. As far as from the practice, it's been wonderful to get back to coaching. We're trying to be as responsible as we possibly can be. It's tough, but we just have to remind them. They're very social when it comes down to it, so they like to kind of bunch up in groups, and we have to keep on reminding them, hey guys, masks on. Hey guys, 6 feet. Just keep on telling them this is things we have to do, and they're getting it. They're getting it for sure. They're working hard, and we're trying to stay responsible and safe out there. But it's a lot of fun being back in practice. I know like pretty much every coach I know has been just lonely and trying to find something to do. Like I have 2 children and I've been trying to coach them at home, and they're tired of me trying to coach them. So because they don't like to listen to anything I say, so definitely don't want to hear me coaching. But yeah, no, I'm loving being back. I'm really enjoying the time with the athletes.
Yeah, I wish you were trying to coach me in my office too. So it's nice to have our athletes back, so you could be back out on the track with them.
Yeah.
But I was telling them some too. Of course, getting used to the mask and running has been definitely a challenge and a change for them. But I told them, just think about, you get through this for the next several months of training with that. Just think about how easier it'll be. When you're out there running on the track and you don't have the mask. And I think it'd be to even go even further that you were able to overcome that obstacle to where it'll be almost like it was before, and you've been trained even harder.
Yeah, that's a good way of telling them, hey, it's like kind of like cross training, like resistance training in a way, I guess. Maybe not the right word, but like it's difficult, and it's a good way to get them like mentally accepting the reality of what we're in right now, because I think it's tough with all the things they're dealing with the online classes, just all the distancing stuff. It's just a good way for them to stay focused and mentally tough with what's going on. So yeah, like this, like yeah, this is low oxygen training. I think that's what we were kind of throwing out there, and but no, they're doing a good job with it. I think they understand why they're doing it. So yeah, we're doing good with it, I think.
I think you have to like too, because you're used to what the returners are going to give you. Obviously, it's different times, but you kind of know what to expect from them, coming back. But you've had your recruits that you've been kind of waiting on to get here. Now you get to finally see them over the past few weeks. I think that's vital. Even though you're not able to compete, how nice has it been able to see the recruiting class come here and just kind of get a feel for them on kind of what they can do, engage kind of where they're at this point in their careers.
Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It's fun seeing because the recruiting process is such a long process. I think people don't really understand the length that you have, like the time that you have to talk to student athletes to like get them to decide that this is where they want to go to school, and just like you build these relationships with people, and then some of them decide to go elsewhere, and so it's this long recruiting process that it takes a toll, and when they come on and you finally see how them work hard, it then see what they're capable of doing, see what they're going to contribute to the team. It's pretty awesome to see, and I'm really excited with the athletes that we brought in this year. I think they're going to contribute in a big way to our team. So
one nice thing too, I think that helped out was, of course, last year got cut short, but you get, the 4 guys coming back, all have good experience. How nice is it to, welcome them back into the fold, especially somebody like Justin, who is a model of somebody you want to train, perfect on and off the track when it comes to everything he follows, and a good role model for, the up and coming, recruits. And you get, Kurt coming back as well, and Max, and then Dominic. How nice is it to have those 4 coming back, because, they're used to it, and they can kind of take on that leadership abilities, going into this coming year.
yeah, absolutely. We're grateful that they're able to make it work. I know a lot of people out there are not able to make that transition work because of classes or just having to graduate and get working. Like people need to move on sometimes. So I think we are fortunate to have those guys be able to come and be able around to help us out and provide that leadership, like you're saying. It's awesome. They're good people, and I think that's really translating to the group right now. I think we should have a really great group of athletes that understand how to get along, how to be good teammates, and that's something we like from when we start recruiting them. That's what we preach. We want to have people who want to come in, have a great collegiate track and field experience, and want to be good teammates. Want to build like a family environment that they can enjoy. Make it it's an experience that we want people to take with them. And when we get the right people in the mix, I think you have just an awesome experience that people that are always fond of and enjoy and want to continue to be part of after they leave. So.
How much of an adjustment was it too? Because, lost in all this, people forget that, we're done in the middle of March. Everything's completely shut down. We didn't even get to finish our indoor part of the Nationals. We only had one outdoor meet going. We're just getting ready for the whole rest of that season. It's cut short. And then, in the middle of summer, you move into the head coaching position. How tough of a challenge was it to, move into that role during the pandemic? At least I think it was helpful having somebody like Zach, Holloway, who'd been here and been kind of that assistant too, to kind of help move into your old role. And you guys kind of, took it on jointly over these past few months.
Oh yeah, having Zach around, he's been indispensable. He's done a great job during this like transition here. So like yeah, it would have been pretty rough if I was doing this all. Like Zach's been around helping me out. Cody Warner, our GA, has been around helping me out. Yeah, my assistant coaches I have right now, we're still trying to fill in some of their positions, but for the most part, especially over this whole long, like the first part of the question you asked about, like just like coming back, in here, and like some people, stayed pretty active. Other people, they didn't have tracks available to them. They didn't have like resources, so we had to like time get creative, and they had to work in place at home in their garages or do what we can. And not everybody was able to do that, so it was kind of been interesting to see who was able, like where people's fitness levels are at the moment, and try to kind of like piece it together so that we make sure we know that some people have taken 9 months off, and we got to get them back to a place where they're able to train before we just start throwing a bunch of heavy work on them. So, but everybody's being really receptive right now to what we're doing. Practices right now, I see a lot of people are having fun, they're engaged, and the effort level is there. So, yeah, I'm having a great time with practice right now.
I always got to kind of viewing it that way, talking to a lot of our other coaches. We've talked about, and our student athletes, is that as much as we wanted to compete, obviously when we came back, in August and September, we're so used to that year in and year out. I think given how weird this year was, it's almost kind of a blessing in disguise that we didn't have to jump right into competitions because, like you said, some people weren't able to train really. Some got to train, some didn't. So I think this was a really good kind of transformation few months, to get ready for hopefully January, February when we can actually have a season, not have to just jump in it right away to kind of give you, and the coaches and the athletes their chance to really recover and get ready for the season.
Yeah, I agree. I think we have a young crew, especially with the cross country. So, I mean, we were supposed to start mid-August with that, and it's just something that it hasn't really developed yet. There's still some opportunity to possibly do cross country here soon, and a lot of things are still, I'm sure as everybody is aware, are still up in the air a little bit, and we're trying to figure out, from NCAA and GNAC, where everything's going to sit. But there's still a possibility. But having this time to kind of come together in our groups and just kind of see where we're at, and giving some of the younger people some time to acclimate, giving our returners time to acclimate to this new reality that we're dealing with, and yeah, it's been, I think, helpful. Of course, people, they want to compete, and some people decided we did have an opt-out option, and some people decided to opt out for safety purposes, and since they weren't on campus. So, and we respect that because people have to decide, where their comfort level is with things, and we're supporting people there. But yeah, it's been good in some ways, but still, you want to compete. The athletes want to compete. They're eager to compete, and so are we. So we're hoping that once, February, March, things hopefully clear up, and we can have, the either indoor, cross-country, and hopefully outdoor season as we go. It's going to be a pretty busy spring, but we're excited about it.
You tell me you didn't want to keep watching our student athletes train from their house and their driveways on their Zoom. Come on, that's a good job of coaching them there. Watching them run laps around their little 10-foot driveways, up and down.
Yeah, they did not want to do that. That's very limited effectiveness for coaching there. It's like it's one of those things where I think in person, and we can have. I think it's a tough thing to be able to do on Zoom, but it all depends. People, they want to get better, so they're willing to put in the work. So.
How much did it help for you, personally? You'd already been at the school, 4 years as the associate head coach. And then, when you made the transition to head coach with everything else going on, How much do you think it really helped with that familiarity, already knowing the school, you already kind of knew the routine, so it's not like you were going into a brand new place having to, be the head coach. So how much was that easier with everything going on? At least you were at the same school and kind of following that same script when you came back.
Yeah, I think that helped a lot. It helped me not have to worry about a lot of things that, I guess I would be if I was in a new position. I'd be worrying about, what is what, like where's our, how do you purchase this? How do you do this? How, all those kind of things. I kind of had a somewhat of a clear picture because it was up in the air a little bit, but it allowed me to focus on what are the athletes doing, how are we going to get back into it, what's going to be the best thing for us as a team as we progress, and how are we going to be able to do so safely. So that familiarity allowed me to not worry about the other stuff and allow me to really boil down to the team and where do we need to go. So.
And one last thing we'll finish off with here is that, the DMR, we can't not talk about them, and the tradition that's been put through in this program, in back-to-back titles, you were a part of both of those. What did that mean to be around, the foursome each year and how they were able to reach that level of success and really set that tradition for WU in this program?
It was awesome to watch. It was awesome to be involved in that and part of that and seeing those guys work hard. It really is an easy way to illustrate to all our athletes those guys that were so focused, laser beam focused on what they were trying to do. The time they spent over the winter break and it was easy for the rest of the team to look at those guys and say, hey, those guys are doing it. That's how you get it done. That's the work effort that you need. That's the commitment that you need. So it was that's set forth a standard I think people understand needs to be held up to, and that's sometimes that kind of environment for your team and that understanding, it's kind of hard to develop that with your team, but those guys being there and doing that, accomplishing those things has really set this standard of hey, we want to do well, we want to accomplish big things. This is how you got to put it down. You got to be about your business. You got to take care of business, and it's it's a level of commitment that you got to be right with because those guys, what they did wasn't easy by any stretch of imagination. They put in the work and they did a great job. So I'm grateful that they were able to do that, and I'm grateful. I mean that tradition, the middle distance tradition here has been rolling for quite a while. Coach Johnson did a great job in the middle distances getting that tradition going, and I think Coach Holloway was kind of the start of those guys that really started rolling in the middle distances and stuff, and having him still around, helping out, continuing that has been a great help. So those guys, definitely kind of a standard we like to try to live up to as a team to try to improve and do some great things.
All right, Coach G, it was really great catching up with you. Of course, congratulations again on being promoted to the, head coach here. We look forward to the future, what to come with the Wolves, and it was good catching up with you. We'll see you here soon.
All right, Brian, thank you very much for having me. I'm having so much fun right now. Shouldn't even be legal. Just hope that everything clears up and we can get back to a sense of normal soon, so we can continue to thrive.
Our thanks to both Coach Pifer and Coach G for joining us on the show for this month. And now we close with our segment of the Fact Checker, and for that, we turn it over to Deborah.
And our first true or false statement: Ash Creek Preserve can hold meets 5K up to 10K. True or false?
True, Deborah. And just in last year alone, we had the 3 that we hosted and had the Pac-12 as well as the high school and mid-school meets. So 6 total meets were on the course last year.
The tallest WU men's basketball athlete, Andy Obge, 6 feet 6 inches.
And this one's crazy to think because that one's false. We had Liam Hughes, who came in at a staggering 7'3", so just a little bit taller than both Deborah and myself.
DMR means digital media recorder.
For that part for you, Deborah, is true, but for us on the track side, that's the distance medley relay. And that concludes our show for this month. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you next month.